Underestimated DEFIANC, the stars watched in silence as humanity took its first tentative steps into the vast cosmic ocean. For centuries, Earth had been just another insignificant blue dot in the galactic community's eyes, a primitive world housing a species barely worth noticing. The more advanced civilizations, spanning hundreds of systems across the Orion Arm, regarded humans with a mixture of amusement and dismissal. Earth's technology was centuries behind, their military capabilities laughable, their understanding of cosmic politics non-existent. In the Grand Council of Stellar Nations, Earth held no seat. Humanity's representatives stood in the observer gallery, tolerated but never truly heard. The galactic powers had classified Earth as a developing world, a polite term for what they really meant, too weak to matter. Commander Elena Vasquez knew this all too well. Standing at the observation deck of Luna Base, she watched Earth rotate slowly beneath her, beautiful and seemingly defenseless. As head of Earth's Space Defense Initiative, she carried the burden of protecting a planet that the galaxy had written off as easy prey. "Admiral Chen is requesting your presence in the war room, Commander," her AI assistant informed her. Elena sighed, her dark eyes never leaving the sight of her home planet. "Tell him I'm on my way." The war room was buried deep within Luna's crust, protected by layers of specialized materials that blocked all forms of surveillance. Here, Earth's highest military command gathered around a holographic display showing real-time movement across the solar system. Admiral Chen, a stern man with graying temples and eyes that had seen too much conflict, looked up as Elena entered. "They're here," he said simply. The hologram shifted to show a massive fleet emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Hundreds of ships, their designs sleek and predatory, moved with perfect coordination. "The Corvins," Elena whispered. Everyone in the room knew the name. The Corvin hegemony controlled 37 star systems, their military might feared even among the galactic powers. And now, they had come to Earth. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," a communications officer announced. A figure appeared on the main screen, tall, with iridescent scales covering the humanoid frame. The Corvin admiral's voice was translated into a metallic approximation of human speech. "People of Earth, your resources have been deemed necessary for the continued expansion of the Corvin hegemony. Your world now falls under our protection and authority. Submit to immediate occupation, and your population will be treated fairly under hegemony law. Resistance will result in your extinction. You have 6 Earth hours to comply." The message ended. Silence filled the war room. "So," Admiral Chen said, his voice calm despite the apocalyptic threat, "it seems our time has come sooner than expected." The United Earth Defense Council convened immediately. Representatives from every nation appeared on screens around the table. Fear was evident on their faces, but so was determination. "The Corvins expect us to surrender," the Secretary General stated. "They've watched us for decades. They've seen our outdated ships, our primitive weapons. They believe we are defenseless." Elena stepped forward. "Then it's time they learned how wrong they are." For 20 years, humanity had maintained a facade of technological inferiority, while openly developing ships that the galactic community could observe and dismiss. Earth's best minds have been working on something else entirely, hidden beneath the surfaces of Mars, Europa, and deep within asteroid fields where prying eyes couldn't reach. "Initiate Protocol Prometheus," Admiral Chen ordered. Throughout the solar system, hidden facilities rumbled to life. Massive doors opened in the surfaces of moons and asteroids, and from these secret womb emerged Earth's true defense fleet, the Dreadnoughts. Unlike the utilitarian designs of conventional Earth ships, these vessels were marvels of engineering that had been developing in secret for decades. 7 massive warships, each named after mythological defenders: Aegis, Excalibur, Mjolnir, Kusanagi, Gabog, Hurricane, and Vitra. They were Earth's hidden strength, built with technology reverse-engineered from recovered alien artifacts and enhanced by human ingenuity. On the bridge of the Aegis, Captain Sonia Rodriguez felt the massive ship come alive around her. Displays illuminated, showing her crew at their stations, faces set with grim determination. All systems operational, Captain, her first officer reported. The Corvan fleet hasn't detected us yet. Sonia nodded, her fingers tracing the command console. Keep our stealth systems at maximum. Let's see what our visitors are up to before we introduce ourselves. The Corvan fleet had moved deeper into the solar system, their formation spreading to surround Earth. Their scanners probed the planet's defenses, finding only what humanity had wanted them to see: a handful of outdated orbital platforms and a small fleet of conventional warships gathering in Earth's orbit. In the war room, Alina watched the Corvans' methodical approach. They're taking their time. They don't see us as a threat. That's their first mistake, Admiral Chen replied. And their last. 5 hours into the Corvans' ultimatum, Earth's conventional forces made their move. The small fleet of visible Earth ships approached the Corvan armada, broadcasting a message of their own. Attention Corvan fleet, Earth rejects your terms. We will defend our world with everything we have. The Corvan response was immediate and brutal. Their forward ships opened fire, energy weapons lancing through space to tear apart the approaching Earth vessels. The destruction was broadcast live to Earth's population, a demonstration of power meant to break humanity's will. In cities across the planet, people watched in horror as their apparent defense was obliterated in minutes. But in the hidden command centers, Earth's leaders remained calm. The Corvans believe they've crippled our defense capability, Alina said. Now they'll move in to establish orbital dominance before landing their occupation forces. As predicted, the Corvan fleet began to descend toward Earth, spreading out to cover the major population centers. Their ships moved with arrogant confidence, shields lowered to conserve energy. They expected no further resistance. Admiral Chen's voice was steady as he gave the order all of humanity had been preparing for. All dreadnoughts, weapons free. Engage the enemy. The first sign that something was wrong came when 3 Corvan destroyers at the edge of their formation simply disappeared in balls of searing light. Before the Corvan command could process what had happened, more explosions bloomed across their fleet as perfectly placed torpedoes found their targets. And then, emerging from their stealth shrouds, Earth's dreadnoughts revealed themselves. Captain Rodriguez watched with grim satisfaction as the Aegis decloaked alongside its sister ships. The Corvan fleet's orderly formation dissolved into chaos as commanders tried to respond to the unexpected threat. Target their command vessels, she ordered. Don't let them regroup. The dreadnoughts moved with surprising speed for their size, their advanced propulsion systems allowing maneuvers that the Corvans clearly hadn't anticipated. Earth's ships were outnumbered, but each dreadnought carried firepower equivalent to a dozen Corvan cruisers. On the Corvan flagship, Supreme Commander Vexnar watched in disbelief as his fleet scrambled to defend against weapons they had never seen humans wield before. Impossible, he hissed through sharp teeth. Their technology is primitive. We have studied them for decades. His tactical officer's scales had paled with fear. Sir, these aren't the ships we've observed. These are something else entirely. Return fire. All ships, concentrate on those vessels. Vexnar ordered. The Corvan fleet regained some cohesion, bringing their weapons to bear on the dreadnoughts. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked across space. Some found their marks, splashing against the dreadnought shields. Aboard the Mjolnir, Captain Wei Lin braced as his ship absorbed a direct hit. Shield status, he demanded. Holding at 82%, Captain, his defensive officer reported with barely contained excitement. Their weapons aren't as powerful as our simulations predicted. Captain Lin allowed himself a small smile. Then let's show them what ours can do. The Mjolnir's main cannon charged, drawing enormous power from its core. When it fired, the beam cut through space like a surgeon's scalpel, slicing through 3 Corvan ships in succession. The vessels didn't explode. They simply split apart, their systems failing as the beam disrupted not just their hulls, but the very energy fields holding their technology together. Throughout Earth's solar system, the battle raged. The Dreadnoughts moved in coordinated patterns that confused and divided the Corvan forces. Humanity's secret weapons weren't just powerful, they were smart, equipped with AI targeting systems that adapted to Corvan evasive maneuvers in real time. In orbit around Venus, the Excalibur engaged a Corvan battle group trying to flank Earth's defenses. Captain Miguel Santos watched as his weapons officer deployed their ship's unique capability. Micro-missiles that split into thousands of projectiles, each guided to exploit weaknesses in Corvan shield geometry. "The Corvans are falling back from Venus, Captain," his sensors officer reported. "They're trying to regroup at Saturn's rings. They won't make it that far," Santos replied. Kusanagi and Gabolg are already in position. Indeed, the retreating Corvan ships found themselves caught in a perfectly executed trap as two more dreadnoughts emerged from hiding within Saturn's rings. Caught between advancing and retreating death, the battle group surrendered, the first Corvan force ever to do so in the hegemony centuries of expansion. Back at Earth, the main Corvan fleet was in disarray. Supreme Commander Vexnar watched as his carefully planned invasion crumbled around him. More than a third of his ships had been destroyed or disabled, and the humans' dreadnoughts showed no signs of weakening. "Send the signal," he finally ordered, his voice heavy with humiliation. "Call for reinforcements from the homeworld." His communications officer hesitated. "Sir, that would be admitting we failed to subjugate a primitive world." Vexinar's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Send it. Now." As the desperate call for help was transmitted through Corvan quantum channels, the Aegis approached the Corvan flagship. Captain Rodriguez opened a channel. "Corvan command vessel. This is Captain Sonia Rodriguez of Earth Defense Ship Aegis. Your invasion has failed. Withdraw your forces immediately, or we will destroy every last ship." On the Corvan bridge, Supreme Commander Vexnar snarled at the human's image. "This isn't over, human. The full might of the Corvan hegemony will descend upon your world. What you face today is merely a fraction of our power." Rodriguez's expression remained impassive. "We'll be waiting. And Commander, next time, don't underestimate Earth." The remaining Corvan ships retreated, jumping to hyperspace with their damaged vessels in tow. As they fled, humanity celebrated its first victory against a galactic power. But in command centers across Earth and its moons, the mood was tempered with the knowledge that Vexnar's threat was not empty. "They'll be back," Elena said, watching the last Corvan signatures disappear from their sensors. "And in greater numbers." Admiral Chen nodded solemnly. "Yes, but now they know we're not the easy target they thought we were. And by the time they return." He turned to look at the holographic display, showing 3 more dreadnoughts under construction in secret facilities throughout the solar system. "We'll be even stronger." The battle was won, but the war for Earth's place among the stars had just begun. Humanity UNLEAG. 93 days after the first Corvan retreat, Earth waited. The entire solar system had become a fortress. Asteroid fields were seeded with mines, gas giants hosted hidden weapons platforms, and the dreadnoughts patrolled in vigilant formation. 3 new ships had joined the original 7. The Gungnir, the Trident, and the Brahmastra, each incorporating lessons learned from the first encounter. In the war room beneath Luna's surface, Commander Elena Vasquez studied the latest intelligence reports. The Corvan hegemony had gone unusually quiet. Their usual diplomatic channels in the galactic community had fallen silent, and their trading outposts had reduced activity by 60%. "They're gathering their strength," Admiral Chen said, joining her at the holographic display. "Our scouts report massive fleet movements throughout Corvan territory." Elena nodded grimly. "How long?" "Days. Maybe hours." The door slid open, and Dr. Imran Khatri entered, his eyes bright with excitement despite the dark circles beneath them that spoke of sleepless nights. As the chief scientist of Project Prometheus, he had been instrumental in developing the technology that powered the dreadnoughts. "We've done it," he announced without preamble. "The Nexus shield is operational." Both military leaders turned to him with renewed hope. The Nexus shield had been theoretical when the first Corvan fleet attacked, a defensive system designed to protect not just the Dreadnoughts but entire planets. "Can it be deployed in time?" Admiral Chen asked. Dr. Caftry's expression sobered. "Earth, yes. We've completed the planetary grid. The colonies on Mars and Europa will have to rely on conventional defenses for now." It was a tough decision, but one that had already been anticipated. Earth's population dwarfed those of the colonies. If choices had to be made, protecting the homeworld took precedence. "Begin full deployment," Elena ordered, "and pray we have enough time." They had less than they'd hoped. 18 hours later, the Deep Space Monitoring Network detected massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. This wasn't just a fleet returning for revenge. It was an armada. Over 3,000 Corvan vessels tore through the fabric of space, their emergence creating a spectacle visible even to the naked eye from Earth's surface. Leading them was a ship that dwarfed even the Dreadnoughts, the Corvan superior warship Inevitability, the flagship of the hegemony's Grand Fleet. In cities across Earth, people looked up at the night sky and saw new stars appearing, the energy signatures of arriving Corvan ships. This time, there was no ultimatum, no demand for surrender. The hegemony had come to erase what they now saw as a threat to their dominance. Captain Sonia Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Aegis, watching the tactical display with a calm that belied the gravity of the situation. "They'd brought their entire fleet," her XO said, voice tight with tension. "Not their entire fleet," Rodriguez replied. "Just everything they think they'll need." She tapped her console, opening a channel to all Earth forces. "All ships, maintain discipline. Remember your training. We've prepared for this moment. They may outnumber us, but they still underestimate us." The Corvan Armada split into 3 massive battle groups. The first and largest headed directly for Earth. The second diverted toward Mars, while the third spread out to secure the outer system. "They've learned," Admiral Chen observed from the command center. "They're not taking any chances this time." Elena's eyes narrowed as she studied their formation. "No, but they're still thinking conventionally. Activate Operation Hydra." Throughout the solar system, hidden surprises waited for the Corvan forces. As their ships passed Jupiter, automated defense platforms emerged from the gas giant's atmosphere, firing electromagnetic pulses that disabled dozens of vessels before they could raise their shields. In the asteroid belt, mines activated, not exploding but attaching to Corvan hulls, broadcasting their positions to Earth's targeting systems. The Dreadnoughts held position around Earth, a last line of defense should the outer system traps fail to thin the Corvan numbers sufficiently. Captain Wei Lin of the Mjolnir watched as the battle unfolded across his tactical display. "The Corvans are adapting quickly," he noted. "Their second wave is avoiding the minefields." "As expected," replied his tactical officer, "but they're being herded exactly where we want them." Indeed, the Corvan fleet's evasive maneuvers were pushing them into predefined killing zones where Earth's defensive platforms had the highest concentration of firepower. It was a strategy of attrition. Humanity couldn't match the Corvan ship for ship, but they could make them pay dearly for every kilometer of space. On the Corvan flagship Inevitability, Supreme War Master Zexkor watched with mounting frustration as his advance forces encountered one deadly trap after another. Unlike his predecessor Vexenar, who had underestimated the humans, Zexkor had come prepared for a difficult campaign. But even he hadn't anticipated the depth of humanity's preparations. "These humans fight like the Dereks," he growled, referencing an ancient enemy that had nearly broken the hegemony centuries ago. "They used the very terrain against us." His senior tactician, a veteran of 100 campaigns, nodded grimly. "They've had time to prepare, War Master, and they've studied our methods well. Then we shall do what the hegemony has always done when faced with a clever enemy," Zexkor decided. "We will overwhelm them with our numbers." The order went out, and the Corvin fleet accelerated, accepting losses as they pushed through Earth's outer defenses. Ships exploded by the dozens, but the Armada pressed forward, their superior numbers allowing them to absorb punishment that would have broken a lesser force. In the war room, Alina watched the Corvin advance with growing concern. They're pushing through faster than we projected. At this rate, they'll reach Earth's orbit within 2 hours. Admiral Chen's expression was grave. Then it's time for the Dreadnoughts to engage. The Earth Defense Fleet moved out from their holding position, the 10 Dreadnoughts forming a spearhead that drove directly into the approaching Corvin forces. Unlike their previous encounter, there was no element of surprise this time. The Corvins knew what they were facing and had prepared accordingly. Aboard the Aegis, Captain Rodriguez felt her ship shudder as the first Corvin salvos impacted their shields. Shield status: holding at 83%, Captain, her defensive officer reported. They've modified their weapons to penetrate our defenses more effectively. Rodriguez nodded grimly. Return fire. Target their command ships first. The Dreadnoughts' advanced weapons systems engaged, filling space with destructive energy. Corvin ships exploded, but more took their place. It was like fighting a rising tide. For every vessel destroyed, 2 more advanced. In the engine room of the Kusanagi, Chief Engineer Takashi Yamamoto worked frantically to maintain power levels as the ship engaged multiple enemies simultaneously. The shields are draining our reserves faster than expected, he reported to Captain Nadia Ivanova. We can't maintain this intensity for long. Understood, Ivanova replied. Reroute power from secondary systems. We need those shields. The battle intensified as the Corvin flagship Inevitability moved into range, nearly twice the size of a dreadnought. Its weapon systems were devastating, capable of disabling a smaller ship with a single concentrated barrage. All ships, evasive pattern Delta. Admiral Chen ordered as the massive Corvin vessel targeted the Earth fleet. Do not engage the flagship directly. But the Inevitability's firepower was too great to avoid completely. A focused beam struck the dreadnought Hurricane, overwhelming its shields and cutting deep into its hull. Emergency systems engaged, sealing off breached sections, but the damage was severe. Hurricane is taking heavy damage, reported Alina, watching the tactical display with growing alarm. Their engines are offline. Dispatch Vajra and Gabolg to cover their retreat, Chen ordered. We can't lose any of our ships. The wounded dreadnought limped away from the battle, protected by its sisters. But the Corvin advantage was becoming clear. They could afford to lose ships. Earth could not. In cities across the planet, people watched the space battle unfold through public broadcasts. Corvin weapons fire was now visible in daylight, flashing like lightning in the upper atmosphere. The Nexus shield was holding, but the strain on its systems was enormous. In Geneva, the United Earth Defense Council met in emergency session. The president of the United Earth government looked around the table at the grim faces of her advisors. Is evacuation still an option? She asked. The Secretary of Defense shook his head. The colony ships aren't ready, and we'd never get enough people off-world before the Corvins break through. Then we stand and fight, the president decided. Authorize Protocol Omega. The order went out. Throughout Earth's cities, hidden military facilities activated. Orbital defense cannons emerged from camouflaged positions, powering up with an ominous hum that could be felt more than heard. In orbit, the battle raged on. The dreadnoughts fought with skill and courage, but they were being slowly pushed back toward Earth. The Corvin numbers seemed endless, their ships forming wave after wave of attacks. We need a new approach, Alina said, watching another cluster of Earth's automated defenses go dark under Corvin fire. We can't win a war of attrition. Admiral Chen studied the tactical display, his eyes fixed on the Corvin flagship. No, but we might be able to cut off the head. The plan came together quickly. The remaining dreadnoughts would concentrate their fire on the Inevitability's escorts, creating a narrow corridor. Through this gap, a single ship would make a run at the flagship itself, not to destroy it, but to deploy a specialized weapon that Dr. Caftry's team had developed, a quantum disruptor designed to temporarily neutralize Corvin command systems. "It's a one-way mission," Elena said quietly. "Whoever goes won't be coming back." "The Aegis will go," came Captain Rodriguez's voice over the comm. "My ship is positioned closest to the target, and we have the strongest remaining shields." Admiral Chen hesitated, then nodded. "Godspeed, Captain." The plan was executed with precision, born of desperate necessity. The Dreadnoughts coordinated their fire, carving a path through the Corvin fleet. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes as concentrated energy tore through their hulls. For a brief moment, a gap appeared in the Corvin formation. The Aegis accelerated to maximum speed, its engines pushing beyond safety limits. Corvin gunners noticed the maneuver too late, their weapons tracking the Earth ship as it hurtled toward their flagship. On the bridge of the Aegis, alarms blared as systems overloaded under the strain. Shields at 42% and falling. The defensive officer reported as enemy fire raked the ship's hull. "Stay on course," Rodriguez ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "All power to forward shields and engines." The inevitability loomed larger in their view screen, its massive weapons turning to face the approaching threat. The Corvin flagship fired, a devastating beam that the Aegis barely avoided with a last-second maneuver that strained its structural integrity to the breaking point. "We're in range," the weapons officer announced. Rodriguez took a deep breath. "Deploy the disruptor." The quantum disruptor launched, a small projectile that seemed insignificant against the massive Corvin vessel. It struck the flagship's hull and detonated, not with a conventional explosion, but with a pulse of energy that spread across the ship like ripples in a pond. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the inevitability systems began to fail. Its weapons went dark. Its engines sputtered and died. Most importantly, its command and control network collapsed, leaving the rest of the Corvin fleet suddenly without coordination. "It worked," Elena exclaimed, watching the flagship's energy signature fluctuate wildly on the tactical display. "The inevitability is disabled." But the Aegis had paid a terrible price. The ship's systems were failing, its hull breached in multiple sections. "Get them out of there," Admiral Chen ordered. "Send recovery vessels immediately." Before rescue ships could reach the stricken Dreadnought, a squadron of Corvin destroyers closed in, determined to destroy the vessel that had crippled their flagship. The Aegis fought back with what weapons it had left, but it was outnumbered and severely damaged. In what would later be remembered as one of the most heroic moments of the battle, Captain Rodriguez ordered her remaining crew to evacuation pods while she stayed behind to maintain the ship's defensive systems. "Earth needs every second we can give it," she told her protesting officers. "Now go." As the evacuation pods launched, the Aegis positioned itself between the Corvin attackers and the fleeing crew. Its remaining weapons fired in defiance, covering the escape until the ship could fight no more. The loss of the Aegis was a heavy blow, but it had not been in vain. With the inevitability disabled and the Corvin command structure in disarray, Earth's forces seized the opportunity. The remaining Dreadnoughts, joined by the planet's orbital defenses, launched a coordinated counterattack. Corvin ships, now fighting without central coordination, found themselves outmaneuvered and outfought by Earth's more adaptable tactics. Throughout the solar system, the tide of battle began to turn. On Mars, colonial defense forces that had been fighting a desperate holding action suddenly found their enemies in retreat. In the outer system, Earth's automated platforms regained the initiative, hunting down isolated Corvin vessels. In the war room, Elena and Admiral Chen watched as the Corvin formations began to break apart. "They're withdrawing," Elena observed, hardly daring to believe it. "Not all of them," Chen pointed out. "The ships near the inevitability are forming a defensive perimeter. They're trying to protect their flagship until it can recover." "Then we don't give them that chance." Elena opened a channel to all Earth forces. "This is Commander Vasquez. All available ships converge on the disabled Corvin flagship. We end this now." Earth's remaining dreadnoughts, along with every fighter and corvette that could be spared, descended on the inevitability like avenging angels. The Corvan defenders fought bravely, but without coordination, they were no match for the combined might of humanity's finest. Aboard the crippled Corvan flagship, Supreme War Master X-Corps watched with disbelief as his mighty armada was driven back by a supposedly inferior species. "Impossible," he growled, slamming his fist against a dead console. "We cannot be defeated by primitives." His senior tactician looked at him with resignation. "Perhaps they are not as primitive as we believed, War Master." The Inevitability's backup systems were finally coming online when the dreadnought Excalibur appeared directly in front of it, its main cannon charged and aimed at the flagship's command center. "Corvan flagship," Captain Miguel Santos broadcast. "Your fleet is in retreat. Surrender now, or be destroyed." Throughout the solar system, the remaining Corvan ships were jumping to hyperspace, abandoning their mission and their leadership. The mighty hegemony that had never known defeat had been humbled by the very world they had dismissed as weak. In the end, Supreme War Master X-Corps made the only choice he could. The Inevitability surrendered, the first hegemony flagship in history to do so. As Earth's forces secured their victory, the cost became clear. Thousands had died defending the solar system. The dreadnought Hurricane would never fly again, and the Aegis was lost with its captain. But humanity had survived, and more than survived, they had announced their arrival on the galactic stage in a way that could never be ignored again. 3 months later, representatives of the Corvan hegemony stood before the United Earth government in Geneva. The treaty they signed not only recognized Earth's sovereignty, but granted humanity membership in the Council of Stellar Nations, no longer as observers, but as equals. As the Corvan delegation departed, Admiral Chen found Elena at the observation deck of the newly constructed orbital defense station. Below them, Earth turned peacefully, its surface showing no signs of the conflict that had nearly consumed it. "The hegemony's defeat has changed the balance of power," Chen said, joining her at the viewport. "The other stellar nations are reaching out, seeking alliances. Some are even requesting our technology." Elena nodded, her eyes on the stars. "And beyond the hegemony, what about the other powers that might see us as a threat now?" Chen smiled slightly. "That's why we're building more dreadnoughts. The Nexus shield now protects all our colonies, and Project Helios is ahead of schedule." Elena turned to look at him. "Do you think there will be peace?" "I think," Chen said thoughtfully, "that the galaxy has learned not to underestimate Earth. And that's a good start." In the shipyards orbiting Jupiter, the framework of a new vessel took shape, larger than any dreadnought before it, incorporating everything humanity had learned from their battle with the Corvans. Its name was already emblazoned on its half-completed hull: EDS HFY. The stars watched in silence as humanity secured its place among them. No longer dismissed, no longer underestimated. Earth had been tested and had emerged stronger, its determination proving greater than the Corvan hegemony's disdain. The galaxy had laughed at Earth's weakness, but that laughter had died when humanity's dreadnoughts revealed the true strength of a species that refused to submit. And now, as Earth looked toward the future, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what this surprising world would do next.